Abe here with a Star Wars Armada Battle Report. So I'm going to be playing Frank today, my lovely opponent. I'm playing the Rebels today, and I'm going to be fielding kind of a flexible fleet. It's got 2 Nebula Bs, you'll see it in a minute, but it's really based around standing off and letting its fighters do a lot of damage to its large ships, hopefully taking them down while preserving my ships. We'll see if I can maneuver it in a good way and get those fighters in there. Again, looks like I'm going to be facing a pretty heavy ship list, so we'll see how that works out.
Hi, this is Frank. I'm going to be playing Abe today. My list is all heavy ships because fighters are for suckers, and I'm going to fly at him and shoot him in the face until he blows up. This is the first game I've ever played of Armada. I have not read the rules, so this is going to be kind of a test to see if fighters are actually worth anything, so we'll see what happens.
Alright guys, today we are playing the Superior Positions mission. That means that I, as the first player, the Rebel player, I have less points. So I set up all my stuff first. Frank will set up after me, and then we will get bonus points, bonus victory points at the end, basically for how many times we can shoot each other's ships in the rear. I'm playing the Rebel fleet, and what I've got here is 2 Nebula B escort frigates. One of them has a veteran captain. One of them is the named ship the Yaravis and has 8 Artalion. So it's really a great carrier ship. Then I've got 1 CR-90B with my Admiral, General Dodonna, on it, and it is appropriately the Dodonna's Pride. Then I'm really running kind of an all-star list of fighters over here. We've got Taiku Selku, Luke Skywalker, 2 B-Wings, Dutch Vendor, and Wedge Antilles. So 6 squadrons, 4 of which are named, 3 of which were at the first Death Star. So we're going to see what we can do. This list really is based around being maneuverable and using its fighters to try to pound him.
So I'm taking a pretty straightforward list. It is 2 Gladiator 2s with gunnery teams, engineering teams, and expanded launchers. And a victory, specifically the Warlord with Admiral Screed, point defense reroutes, assault concussion missiles, and a gunnery team. Like I said, there's no fighters, so I'm basically going to be relying on my anti-fighter dice and also just killing all his capital ships before he can do anything.
Alright guys, here is a quick shot of our deployment. You can see in the middle of the table we've got most of the terrain, including the station, but we're actually all kind of clumped up on this side. My stuff's here, and you've got this wedge of 3 Star Destroyers coming out of the corner towards me. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll see you after turn 1. Alright guys, this is the end of turn 1. We are still out of range, so we haven't exchanged any shots yet. I maneuvered towards my right, trying to get away from the frontal attack of his 3 ships, and move my fighters towards his ships, and he kind of came towards me, maneuvering. You can see this one on the end, so that it'll hopefully run right into my stuff next turn. So we'll be back with you at the end of turn 2. Alright guys, this is the end of turn 2. Our fleets are now racing towards combat. I'm trying to complete this big sweep around, but we are running straight into his Gladiator. It's the only shot so far is that Gladiator got some long range shots at this Nebula B and did manage to take off a shield of mine.
Double crits!
With 2 crits. I evaded one and took the other one. These 2 are kind of circling around trying to come in for that kill as I'm trying to swarm one of his ships. So this next turn looks to be a pretty critical turn, I'd say, for determining at least this initial engagement here. So we'll see you at the end of turn 3. Alright guys, it is the end of turn 3, and we actually had some action go down here. So if you'll notice over here, the big thing that's missing is that one of Frank's Gladiators has been taken down. I concentrated a lot of fire. Both of my Nebula Bs activated squadrons. I got a lot of squadrons on that Gladiator, put some hits on, plus both the Nebula Bs fired at him. One big thing that didn't happen is I didn't get any crits on him. Now I've taken General Dodonna, and he makes my crits a lot more effective. When I do a crit, I get to look at the top 4 cards of the damage deck here, and pick which one I want. I was kind of hoping on that to do some real damage to his gladiator. It ended up not mattering. I didn't get a single crit, even though most of my ships are bombers.
You did roll 2 crits, but those were on the shield.
Right. I didn't get any crits through to his hull. So even though most of my fighters are bombers and can resolve crits, it didn't matter. Luke, however, did manage to attack twice this turn thanks to the Jarvis's special rule, and did do 2 points of damage straight to that gladiator and then move over here. So we put a lot of pain on it. In return, though, it did shoot me up. One of my Nebulon Bs has lost a front shield and its side shield, plus taking 2 points of damage. One of them was a crit, so it can't declare shots against obscured targets now, and it's lost 2 of its 5 hull points. Plus the Jarvis has also lost its shield, and Dutch vendor here took a point of damage from its anti-fighter barrage, and my B-Wing actually took 2 points of damage, so it's actually a little beat up there. So he put some hurt on me, but I think overall I managed to concentrate forces and get the better of that particular exchange. But we've still got some real hurt coming in, and my ships are fragile. So we'll see what turn 4 brings. Alright guys, this is the end of turn 4, and we are spiraling here as we're attempting to get at each other's stern. I'm kind of completing my turn into his force. Kind of trying to stay clumped up. Fighters are in good position, but he's still got a pretty much, pretty strong victory there that's getting in prime condition. I put a lot of hits on his gladiator this turn, stripped off its shields, but it remains hull-wise fine. I did do with Luke. He managed to get a really good shot on that victory. He rolled a hit and a crit on his dice, and Luke's special rule is that he ignores shields. So even though that victory had shields, they went right through. We did 1 point of damage, and then we did a crit, and because I have Dodonna, General Dodonna is my admiral, that allowed me to look at the top 4 cards of the damage deck and pick what crit I wanted, basically. So the victory got a thrust control malfunction damage, which means until Frank spends the engineering points, which is 3 engineering points to repair that, his victory can't actually turn at all. So hopefully, at least for a bit, it's sailing forward there. He got some shots in return. My lost some shields, got a little beat up, but we're okay. My fighters did take some damage. Pretty cool ability we hadn't realized is that his victory is the Warlord, which lets him change a aim dice result to a hit dice, and he can actually do this on
any attack. And since I have point defense reroutes, which let me reroll crits, that means on blue dice I'm either causing a hit or rerolling the die on any anti-squadron dice.
And that works on anti-squadron dice. So he managed to actually put some hits on Wedge and Luke over here. They got a little beat up, but my fighters, none of them are quite at death's door yet. So hopefully I've got at least one more round of good shooting with those fighters, and this is what it's looking like at the end of turn 4. So we'll see how turn 5 does. Looks like this is going to be a turn with a lot of shooting in it. Yeah, so we'll see you after turn 5. This is the end of turn 5. This turn, not the most exciting actually. We shot a lot, but not a ton happened. I put some crits onto the gladiator, one of which made it lose a dice every time it shot at a ship, and one of it which reduced its range. It can't shoot at long range. Frank on its turn though repaired the one that lost the dice, but it can't shoot at long range now, and it has no shields, and it has taken some hits, so it's hurting there. His big thing is that the victory just lit in to Dodonna's pride and stripped most of its shields. Pretty beat it up. It had shot at the rear of the victory. I had 4 dice and a reroll. I was hoping for one to roll a crit so I could ignore his shields and do a crit. I did not, but since I did do any damage to it, I got 1 objective token. So I'm winning on that objective right now. He put another hit onto my beat up, barely surviving escort frigate here, and I do not know if it is going to survive another round of shooting or another turn. We did some hits here. Gladiator's looking a little beat up. Victory is still in pretty good shape. It's lost some shields, but it's in pretty good shape. My ships are getting a little beat up, and this is the last turn, so we're going to see if either of us can pull off a big kill here, basically. And that's what we're looking at here. So, yeah, we're back after turn 6. Turn 6, the final turn of the game. So, here's kind of where it ended up. That Gladiator chased around, but was kind of just out of position, didn't get a great shot off. It did manage to down a B-Wing over here. We came in behind this Victory, and because it was kind of going forward, it plowed through my ships, managed to get a lot of fighter shots off, and with the last shot of the game, Wedge launched a torpedo and downed the Victory. So the Victory is no more, thanks to most of my fleet shooting it this turn and it not having many shields left this turn. So that was a big thing there. I managed to just maneuver my ships behind it, so that beat up Nebulon B could only be shot by his rear and my front, and I had some shields left there, so the Nebulon B miraculously survived. And I did over here, you can see it's got 4 hit points, 2 of them crits out of its 5. The Donna's Pride also lost all of its shields and took 2 points, barely alive. My other Nebulon B, the Yarvis, didn't take a lot of damage, but it's kind of out of position here and also wasn't able to use its squadron command the last 2 turns, and it's kind of built around that, so that was kind of a downer. But you can also see I got 4 objective points this game for shooting his Victory mostly in the butt. This was a pretty intense turn of shooting, trying to get those last points on. That was pretty big, getting that last hit there. So here is the board at the end of turn 6, end of the game. We've got the Gladiator versus my fleet over here beat up, and we'll go ahead and calculate points and get back to you in a minute. All right, we're back, BoLS fans, and total up all the points. In the end, Frank scored about 20 points for blowing up one of my B-Wings. I got about 200 points for ships, 60 points for objectives. So overall, about 240 points in my favor. So pretty crushing Rebel victory. Beat up a lot of my ships, but didn't manage to actually put any out of action. So at the end of the game, I had all my ships but a B-Wing squadron, and he had a Gladiator left that was itself a little beat up. So interesting game. Got some good takeaways from it. This is, only my 4th game of Armada, so I'm actually glad I was able to really outmaneuver him a lot. Just show how maneuverable the Rebel fleet can be, staying out of his close range. He was really a close range force, and I managed to only let him get 1 or 2 shots where he got to use black dice. And excuse me, I'm actually really happy that I was able to prove that, to myself at least, and maybe to you guys, that the Rebel fleet really can be maneuverable and dictate the terms of battle, getting around to flank and eventually side shots against the slower Imperial fleet. Also, my fighters did pretty great in that game. Got a couple times where I got to attack 2-3 times with my fighters using the combo of the Yarvis and the ADAR character on it. It lets a fighter not activate when he shoots even after shooting twice. So put a lot of damage out with my fighters. My ships were a little more survivable, so they got to do a pretty consistent amount of damage. It came down there pretty close though towards the end. If I had not managed to kill that Victory and he had managed to kill my Nebulon B, it would have actually been a really close game there. But it just managed to swing a bit in my favor there. Using Dodonna and a lot of things that can get crits between Dodonna's Pride, which if it rolls a crit on its dice, it just automatically does a crit regardless of his shields. And using Luke, who can resolve crits and ignore shields, really was a pretty cool combo. I did a lot of crits to him, and I was able to pick ones that I liked. It didn't play the biggest role in this game because most of them came towards the last turn or two, but they had some effect, and I could see in another game that being a really awesome combo to use to just put out a lot of crits and get to pick what crits you want. Overall though, my fleet worked about how I wanted, pretty much how you would expect a Rebel fleet from Star Wars to work, using lots of hit and run tactics, and it's tough bomber fighters to get in there and lay down some firepower. So this one was a win for the Rebels, and it was a lot of fun, so I hope you keep watching our Armada reports.
So definitely got to see that fighters are good, so that was a success as far as that experiment goes. Like Abe said, seeing that the extra maneuverability really does make a difference was definitely pretty cool to see. I think right now, because pretty much all the Rebel ships are tending towards smaller and more maneuverable, weighting an Imperial fleet more heavily towards the short range bands is probably going to be a mistake. Definitely would have been better off trading in one of those ships for probably a big pile of TIE fighters. Even if they all got shot down by his fighters, which they probably would have, because he had a bunch of aces. It's still the turn or two it would have bought me of not getting plastered by torpedoes would have definitely helped. But yeah, really the thing that hurt me more than anything was that because of his maneuverability and my short range, I just couldn't get shots on him really at all. Like I was throwing really piddly, like little, 2 and 3 red dice at a time. Rather than throwing like the big 6 black die broadsides and stuff like that, and I just couldn't put out enough damage. I mean, even with just that, I did still actually manage to do a fair amount of damage to a couple of his ships. But if I had taken a Victory 2 instead of the Victory 1 that has the more long-range firepower and mid-range firepower, I think it would have been a pretty different game. So. It's definitely interesting. It's a fun game, so I'll probably look into playing some more games in the future. So not too bad for my first go. So, we'll see you next time.